the Big Three argued in Paris about a peace settlement. In June 1919, they finally agreed about how Germany should be treated. This settlement was called the Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles was one of the peace treaties at the end of World War I. It ended the state of war between Germany and the Allied powers. It was signed on 28 June 1919, exactly 5 years after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The other Central Powers on the Germany side of World War I were dealt with in separate treaties. Although the armistice signed on 11 November 1918 ended the actual fighting, it took 6 months of negotiations at the Paris Peace Conference to conclude the peace treaty. How far did the Big Three get what they wanted? The peace talks began in January 1919. President Wilson wanted the conference to set up the League of Nations as one of its first tasks. Britain and France agreed. The rules of the League of Nations were drawn up. These rules were known as the League of Covenant. The Covenant was included in the Treaty of Versailles and in all other peace treaties. As the only major Allied power sharing a land border with Germany, France was chiefly concerned with weakening Germany as much as possible. Wilson was concerned with rebuilding the European economy, encouraging self-determination, promoting free trade, creating appropriate mandates for former colonies, and above all, creating a powerful League of Nations that would ensure the peace. Britain had suffered little land devastation during the war, and the Prime Minister David Lloyd George supported reparations to a lesser extent than the French. And like the French, he also wanted to preserve his own nation's empire. So, Lloyd George supported secret treaties and naval blockades. Initially, 27 nations from the Allied sides participated. A notable exception was Russia, which agreed to a separate treaty with Germany the previous year. Germany, in addition to the newly separated nations of Austria, was excluded from negotiations because they have lost the war. The 5 major victors were considered the United States, Great Britain, France, Japan, and Italy, such as these 5 nations were responsible for the most important terms of the peace treaty. However, the process proved slow and difficult, as each nation had its own motives. Japan's representative were the first about. Italy was next to lead the negotiations when the country's territorial claims to the Fiume region were rejected. The remaining 3 nations at this point were Great Britain, France, and the US. Despite the conflicting aims of these countries, by June 28, they have finally agreed upon a treaty considered harsh by many and too lenient by others. The Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to accept sole responsibility for causing the war. Germany was therefore forced to make reparations to the price of $32 billion. In addition, Germany's economy was already in complete disarray. Because of this, good portion of the compensation took the form of coal, steel, and agricultural products. Germany was also forced to hand over large areas of its territory to surrender control of its colonies. The treaty proved unpopular with many, especially throughout Germany. The country initially refused to sign a treaty, claiming the war guilt clause was a violation of honor. However, Germany was offered no other option and eventually signed the treaty under a new government. Popular opinion theorized the failure of German public to support was akin to stab the country in the back. Jewish people received the majority of blame, with many claiming they have sold Germany out to the Allies. The stab in the back legend proved instrumental in the rise of the Nazi Party and the political ascension of Adolf Hitler in the years that followed. At the time of the signing, many believed that the treaty did nothing to pacify or permanently weaken Germans.